Any organization or service represented in this video should not be considered as endorsed or recommended by Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. Welcome back to the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Harris County Office webinar, Insurance for Seniors. This is Life Insurance Part 2 that we're calling Life Insurance Specifically. I'm your host, Cindy George, a Master's in Public Health student from the UT Health Science Center at Houston School of Public Health. And our guest today is Camille Hicks of the C. Hicks Agency. She is an insurance agent and broker. We are also joined by Dr. Sonja Stewart Davis, who is the Harris County Family and Community Health Agent, Carrie Calloway, the Community Engagement Coordinator in that office, as well as Ms. Sarah Sanders, who is one of our seniors, as well as an administrative assistant in that office. So welcome everyone to this second part to our life insurance conversation. So Camille, let's get back into it. Let's talk about contemporary times. I see people all the time who have left here. They're young, they're babies, they're young adults. They are middle-aged adults, stroke and heart attacks at early ages. And of course, our elders in the natural progression of time. Within 24 hours, I'm seeing GoFundMe, appeal from people who are not prepared for those expenses that come with the death of a loved one. Can you talk a little bit about whether it's ever too early or too late to have life insurance?
Yes. So, GoFundMe is a great resource and platform, but it's not built to be life insurance. So it really takes some very simple planning and discussion to be prepared. It's never too early to have the discussion, but unfortunately, it can be too late. And what I mean by that is you can get life insurance and make a plan or strategy for your anything that happens. Let's not even just talk about death. There are other things that can come up that you can pull money from a life insurance policy for. But at the end of the day, life insurance is for when something happens, when we expire. So you can start a policy at the age of 0. However, if you get to a certain age, it's different for different companies, but typically it's around 75, 80. After that, it is too late. So there is a such thing as being too late, but there's no such thing as doing it too early.
We see a lot of commercials that have babies and companies that sell baby food, selling baby insurance.
Mm-hmm.
What's the wisdom behind getting one of those policies? They even come in the free gift baby boxes to new parents. What is the wisdom for and maybe not for buying one of those policies for your baby?
So there are 2 reasons why it's a great idea. And the reason that they offer it to babies, and we offer all the companies that you see advertising baby policies. And the reason we do that is because, one, on average, most babies are born in pretty good health. So one of the major factors for life insurance costs and when it's declined is typically due to health. So when you start off young, you start off in a much better position than, when life starts to hit us and things happen, naturally life happens. Secondly, when you purchase life insurance for a child, it allows you to do so much more than just have a death benefit. So if you're looking at a permanent insurance policy, say a whole life policy, you're talking about almost I call it a supercharged savings account, because now you're putting money into, you're getting life insurance, which is the foundation of any solid financial plan. So you're starting your baby off with a solid financial plan where they don't have to worry about life insurance later in life. Then you're also building cash value and accumulation with interest. So it's better than getting a savings account for your baby. It has a dual purpose. So that's why you see baby policies. And the older we get, we don't have those options. They start to become limited by every year.
Now, in our previous episode, we also talked about the point of escalation as far as age is concerned for those premiums, and it can be 50, it can be 60. When is it, when is that point of escalation? When does it become much more expensive to start a new life insurance policy? And of course, when are the circumstances of your health conditions where it becomes too late?
So health, unfortunately, life happens and health can happen. Something can happen with our health at any age, right? So health is always going to play a factor, whether you're young or if you're more seasoned. However, in your 40s, the price starts to increase. Well, let's be clear, it increases every year. But in your late 40s is when you start to really see the change. And then once you get past 50 and 60 and it keeps going, you are literally talking about, like, let me to give you an example. You get $50,000. You get that same amount when you're in your 20s, it might cost you $11. I just did one the other day for $50,000. It was like $12 a month, okay, for a 20-year-old. You do $50,000 for somebody who's 70, and now don't quote me on it because there's all different type of factors, but now you're looking at $300 a month. That's a very, very big difference. So that's why it's much better to get a policy at a younger age, because now the same amount of insurance is costing you 4, 5, 6 times the amount.
Gotcha.
Greater.
Gotcha. So let's go all the way back to something that after you pass the basics, you might even call this one of the basics that we need to talk about. Involves selecting a life insurance agent or broker. How do you know that you are talking to someone who is solid, who is honest, and who has enough experience to give you good advice?
That's a great question, and one that more people should be asking, in my opinion. I've been in the business for 12 years, and I've spent time being under mentorship and learning the industry. So I think, getting an insurance license is not all that difficult. And so it's very important that you be educated yourself on the basics and knowing what to look for. You go to an advisor or to an insurance agent or broker to get assistance. However, just like with many things right now, you have to know a little something about what you're purchasing, about what you need, in order to know that that person is capable. I would like to think in this line of business that nobody's out to just get your money or to do you wrong. However, there's all different types of people and different types of lines of business, not just insurance. So you do have to really be careful with who you select. And hopefully by listening to the Insurance for Seniors series, you will be able to at least identify some of the questions that you need to ask or things that you need to know to make sure that your insurance agent is capable of helping you. So if I had to give, a couple suggestions, I would make sure I know the difference between term and permanent insurance and which one you need. I would make sure I understand the difference between the types of, if you're going for permanent insurance, because a lot of people are, especially when you are more seasoned, you're not looking for a term policy. You also sometimes cannot even get a term policy after a certain age. So it's important to understand what the differences are. And one of the biggest things, the last thing, is that you need to understand like what the terms of the policy is. It's nothing wrong with asking, and you need to ask, how long does this policy last? Does it decline in coverage or in years at a certain point in time? I get a lot of calls on the back end from other agents' policies that, and it's too late. Their husband died and they weren't able to cash out on the policy. That's because they didn't understand the details of the policy. So it's important that you review your policy and look over the basics of how long does the policy last, how much is my face value, and does it ever decrease or change? Those are the 3 most important things. And that will help you make sure you find the most capable agent.
Can you give us those 3 bullet points again?
Yeah, so you want to know how much coverage you have, which is called the face value. You want to know how long it lasts, and you want to see the breakdown. You can ask them for a policy review summary, or if you have permanent insurance, you want to ask for an in-force illustration. Okay, because it can change every year depending on what kind of policy you have. So you want to see what the terms are, how long does it last? And then the last thing is you want to know, does it end? Is there a term at the end of it? Is it for a certain term where it ends at a certain date? Or is it permanent? And even you can get a permanent policy that might only go up to age 90. Well, in my family, the women live to 96, 97. So are you going to outlive your policy? It's important to understand those things.
And we're going to talk about some challenges people have had in real life. Dr. Davis has something that she wanted to share that was raised in one of the Texas A&M AgriLife sessions with elders from our community.
Hello, I was conducting a I think it was healthy nutrition class at a senior group in Houston. And one of the individuals shared that one of her neighbors who was 97 years old passed, and that this person worked for a local ISD or worked somewhere, but they had 3 insurance policies. And upon death, the family could not use any of the policies to help bury the family member. They had to actually sell dinners. And I guess that brought us to the point where we are here now, just trying to help individuals and seniors and those who care for them understand this world of insurance better, so that, we're not being taken advantage of, or it's all about that fine print.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question. And unfortunately, I do get a lot of calls with people who are trying to figure out why their policy didn't pay out, from another agent, not a policy that I wrote. So there's a couple of different reasons why that can happen to somebody. And there are reasons that I really need everybody to be aware of. So one is that when you leave your job, sometimes you're leaving your insurance coverage behind. And I see this happen often, that people retire or change jobs, and they had a policy that they thought was portable, we call portable, and went with them. And it simply just didn't transfer. So yes, you had coverage while you were working, but when you left, you no longer had coverage. And you'd be surprised the number of calls I get saying, well, my mom worked for the district for 40 years and she had coverage. But when she passed away, she was 5 years into retirement. Well, she didn't have coverage anymore. So that's the first thing, is that when you leave your job, the coverage oftentimes does not come with you. And there's only one way to know. Don't assume. You call your HR department and say, I want a copy of my policy. And you call somebody like myself and ask for a review, because often HR doesn't always know the ins and outs of the policies. Okay. The second thing is that it could be a term policy that ended after a certain amount of time. So I see that happen too. I've had insurance coverage for 30 years and the person dies, 40 years after the inception of the policy, and they thought they had coverage for life and they didn't. So the term. And then the third one is decreasing policy, usually decreasing term, but I've seen this happen on whole life policies too, where somebody had purchased $30,000 for a funeral. I actually got this call this year. A lady had a policy that was like $30,000 on her husband. He passed away. She's thinking, great, we're good. Call the insurance company up. Oh, okay, here's your payout, $10,000. Well, it in the policy verbiage, I asked her to send me a copy of the policy. It showed that after year 10, the policy decreased $5,000 every year. So by the time he passed away, he only had $10,000. When she thought for sure that she had all expenses covered. So I can't stress enough how important it is to review your policy. But the thing is, you didn't go to school to become an insurance agent or to review policies. It's very easy to miss this information. So you really do need a qualified advisor or agent that can help you and look over the policy. And that's why I offer reviews. I offer reviews of other agents' policies, because it's more important for me to help you understand your current policy than for me to try to sell you a policy. I'm in the business to educate and help people leave a legacy for their families, as well as make sure that their families are taken care of, to protect whatever is important to you, whether it's a business, a grandchild, a daughter, a son, a dog. That's my job. So it's very important that you find the right agent to help you review the policy, because you can be the smartest person in your field, but you're not an insurance agent. So don't feel bad or guilty or expect to understand a policy. It's really just verbiage that they use. And if your agent doesn't tell you, you might never know that that policy went from 30,000 to 10,000. So those are the typical reasons why somebody would have insurance and not be able to use it at the time of death.
We also know, speaking of burial, that there have been what are called industrial life insurance policies, many that only required a extremely minimal payment. Sometimes people would come by your house for a nickel or a dime or a quarter. These burial policies were often worth $500 or less. Some of them were scams. And depending on how old you are, you remember those, and you might still have one that you believe will at least pay you $500. What do we know about those types of policies?
I think it goes back to the same, whether some of them pay out and are fine. You might, my grandma had one that the man came every month and collected the payment, and it paid fine. But you can't assume that you have a policy that is one enough to cover anything. It's always good to review it and understand your policy, because you could have something that works just fine and will pay out, but you could also be paying every month for $500 that if you had started saving your own money 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, you would have already had the $500 in your savings account.
Plus,
so with some little interest.
So some people run into hard times, and their income changes when they retire, or they have to take Social Security, disability, or other life circumstances drastically impact their income. What happens if you have a policy and you can no longer afford the premium, whether it has changed or stayed the same?
Yeah,
what do you do?
That's a great question. Well, you need to call your agent and see what your options are, because we have some policies that will utilize your cash value to pay for the policy. But you have to be careful. You have to make sure that you understand how long it will pay for it. I see many people lose their policies because the cash value starts to kick in. They stop paying it. The cash value pays for it. But hey, the insurance company doesn't necessarily call you and say you have 1 month of payment left in your cash value, but a good agent will. So it goes back to making sure you have the right people on your team that's looking out for you. Also, what I do personally in my practice is making sure that my clients aren't paying for life insurance in retirement. If you come to me early enough, then we can create a policy that you pay for 10, 20, 30 years. It's not a term policy, but after 30 years, you no longer make payments. So I try my best, depending on your budget, to set it up where in retirement, I don't want you to pay for a life insurance policy your entire life. So after a certain age, we just go ahead and structure it where you don't have any more payments. So unfortunately, if you can't make payments and you don't have cash value, sometimes there's not any other option besides to let your policy go. And that's the situation you don't want to be in. So you definitely want to see what your options are. And if you can help it, it's best to talk about that at the time of putting the policy in force.
I don't think a lot of people even realize that there's an option to have a determined time where payments are paid, to have payments come from your cash value. Can you say you have a tough 5 years? Can you use your cash value to pay for 5 years and then resume paying monthly or every 6 months or annually when your financial circumstances change with your income?
Yes. Yeah, there most definitely is. There's also riders that sometimes on your policy, so it's best to ask. Sometimes there's a rider that says, if you're in a situation we'll waive the payments for X amount of months or years. But the important thing is that every policy is not created equal. So you have to you have to really understand your policy, because there are a lot of different options, and it's best to call your insurance company and check and see what your options are. Don't just let it lapse. Before you let it lapse, please check your options, because life insurance isn't necessarily the thing that you can stop paying and then pick back up and put it back in force. It's not like auto insurance or homeowners insurance. Once your life insurance lapse, you're starting over. So if you had a policy that you got when you were 30 and now you can no longer pay, so you're like, you know what, I'll just pick that up later. I'd rather you not pay another bill than you're to do that, because you are starting over now at age 60. And that can make a difference. And sometimes people can't even afford to pick it back up. And I see that happen a lot too.
That's really scary. So
It is.
one thing that a lot of people also don't understand is how your insurance agent or broker gets paid. So can you talk about how you're compensated for writing policies, structuring policies, and then the fees associated with certain policies that may come out of your premium or the value of the policy or those types of things?
Yeah, so typically there are two ways that insurance agents get paid. If you are independent, I'm an independent broker, which means that I represent multiple companies and I work for myself, but I represent my client versus one insurance company. So I get paid, and a lot of agents get paid on strictly straight commission based on what we sell. So you have different agents with different priorities when it comes to helping people due to the fact that they make commission. So I always tell people, it's not necessarily a fee to work with me, because I get paid from your policy. So you're not paying anything extra. I do have some services that I offer that are extra, but that's based on outside of the product, right? So then there's agents who work for a specific company, and sometimes they get paid hourly and just to help you. And then there's some that actually get paid commission or both commission and hourly. So the important thing to know is that agents do get paid based on what they sell you. So everybody has their different things and different needs and what their motivation is, and it's important to understand your agent's priorities and motivation as well. And it's important to know your agent, in my opinion, as an agent. But I'm the same with, I believe you should have a team of people around you for important things. You should be able to have a conversation with your doctor. You should know a little bit about them. An attorney. There are certain services that I always say you don't want to go to Walmart for. You don't just want somebody checking you out and you don't know them. So I consider my firm my practice is a boutique financial services, because we're going to really get to know you, and we want you to know who we are and what our motives are. So you'll notice too that I'll do a lot of things without I review your policy. It's a policy that I didn't sell. I'm not trying to sell you a policy. So you have to really look at who you're working with and what's important to them, because most agents do get paid on a commission structure. So the bigger your policy, the more money you spend. It doesn't matter if it decreases in 10 years. It's about how much money you're spending. They make commission off of that sale.
And so, and regarding fees that may be associated with maintaining a policy, can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So, I always say there's a fee with a lot of things, right? There's fees on almost everything these days. So there are some fees associated, but most fees are included in your policy. So if any type of fee that would be, there's not a fee to, excuse me, to having life insurance. You pay a premium in exchange for a death benefit. However, there are some types of insurance policies, for example, an index universal life policy. You have there's a component that moves inside of an index universal life that changes based on each year. So there's a fee, just like you would have a fee for
Investment
a stock or
right.
a brokerage account.
Mm-hmm.
So there are some fees involved, but I would not, on the life insurance side, I wouldn't be concerned about fees, because most fees are, they're wrapped into your policy, and you're literally paying a premium, and the fee is not going to change on you. It's built in to most insurance policies. Unlike investments or broker, sometimes you work with an investor and they have a fee for their service. That's not the case with life insurance.
Gotcha. And so to wrap us up, the big question for a lot of people, now that we've been through life insurance 101, the basics, and now we've covered some specific topics, how does a person choose the right insurance policy or policies, as we learned in the first episode, for them in the life insurance space?
So I really start by making sure, I think everybody should start by making sure that they understand what's important to them. Evaluate what's important. So, excuse me, you have to really think about, what are you trying to protect? Who are you trying to protect? What is your goal? And you'll hear me talk about strategy a lot. If you follow me on YouTube or any social media, I will say, set up a strategy call, because a lot of people just throw a number out. You just want to have life insurance, but you really need to think about, what is your goal? Is it just to pay for a funeral, so your family doesn't have to be burdened with the process or the cost? Are you paying for a burial? Are you paying for a cremation? Are you trying to pay taxes on, allow your kids to have taxes paid on a home so that they don't lose the house due to taxes? Are you trying to leave policies to set your grandkids up for college? There's all types of reasons why you would want to leave what I like to call a legacy behind versus bills behind. So you really have to ask yourself, what's important to me and what is my goal? And then call us with that information in mind. And that's how you decide what kind of policy you need.
One other question, which is a new thing, particularly in certain spaces and with certain populations, people of wealth have been having these conversations, creating these steps up, creating the generational wealth for years. These are conversations that are now happening in other sectors of society with other groups of people. One thing that's been new that has emerged in my world, because I deal with a lot of people in the nonprofit space and often give to nonprofit organizations. Some of the development offices and the advancement offices are asking, especially their younger donors, you don't have big amounts to give us a check annually, but they're asking their donors who are younger to get those life insurance policies that may be $11 a month in their 20s, or $20 a month, and leave the beneficiary is your university, your church, your community center, the daycare, child development center, or some other concern in the community that could use a financial boost as your gift upon your demise. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. It's another strategy and goal of life insurance and estate planning. My alma mater, which is Texas A&M University, is very good at it, and it helps. It really it gives you a way. For me, I talk to young people about it because it gives you a way to be able to give back, but you don't have to do it right now, and it only costs you $11, $20, sometimes $20 a month to be able to leave something. And it's not just to your school. It could be to a nonprofit organization, like you mentioned. It could be to a cause that's important to you. So, and it's actually quite simple. It's just purchasing a life policy. Now you're purchasing an additional policy that is directly gifted to the cause, or to the university, or to the charity, or to the church. So
Synagogue, mosque, temple, faith community.
wherever you, what I always stress, whatever is important to you. Okay, however, so it is okay to do that, and I think it's a great idea, and it's a way for you to leave a legacy that's going to live on and on and on, without you having to actually give $100,000, 500, $1 million. There's ways for you to leave a legacy, and again, it goes back to planning. It's just about putting a little extra plan in place to really make a huge impact on whatever's important to you. So I definitely recommend it, and it's easy to set up. You just leave, just so if people are wondering how do you do it, it's literally you leave that organization as the beneficiary.
And it's something that's coming up more and more, and especially for young people, if you love something, wrap your arms around it young with a $10 bill, literally.
Exactly. So I always say, I think our society now, it really sets you up to do kind of whatever you want to do. It's about what do you want to do and how are you going to plan for it and putting your strategy in place, because there's so many options out there. And that's why I just can't, I no longer give the GoFundMe accounts for funerals, because there's no excuses anymore. If you have a cell phone, you can have life insurance.
Absolutely. So I think we've come to the end of this conversation. It's been robust, it's been fruitful, and the call to action is to get a policy. Get a policy, get a policy, take care of yourself, leave a legacy. And we have heard you loud and clear. So how can the people viewing this webinar reach you, Camille Hicks?
So you can look me up online under C. Hicks Agency. Our website is chicksinsurance.com, and we're on all social media. And again, my name is Camille Hicks. And so you can find us by Googling us, going online, call us. We are accessible. Call us, DM us, text us, email us. But we really try to make ourselves available online to all of our clients and prospective clients.
Well, thank you for watching this episode of Insurance for Seniors. We hope these details about life insurance specifically have been helpful to our elders, their caregivers, and anyone who handles their business. Thank everyone who appeared today, and thank everyone for watching. Any organization or service represented in this video should not be considered as endorsed or recommended by Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service.